Hi guys, welcome to your Week 30 U.S. History launch, and we're moving on in the Gilded Age project to checkpoint 4. Again, what you should be doing is thinking in the back of your mind the whole time you work through this project of the compelling question, can greed be good? We just finished up checkpoints 1 through 3, so we're finished with stage 1, which was the inquiry on the Gilded Age, and this week we are moving on to the second phase of the project, which is researching income inequality today. What you're doing for your final product is called a public service announcement. So what I want to do is just quickly define that and then show you an example. A public service announcement is a message that has the objective of raising awareness of and changing public attitudes and behaviors towards a social issue. So you'll see these on TV and you probably don't know exactly what they are. A lot of times they're about texting and driving, smoking, using drugs, those kind of things. So here's just a quick sample one.
Do you know what smoking and cigarettes do to the inside of your body?
It hurts your body. Smoke and cigarettes can hurt your lungs.
It hurts your throat.
It hurts lots of other parts too.
It makes you more likely to get heart disease and lung disease.
It increases your risk for a heart attack or stroke.
And on the outside, it really just stinks.
Your clothes smell,
Your breath is gross.
and your teeth get yellow.
Hello, do you hear what we're saying?
Do you hear what we're saying?
Do you hear what we're saying?
Smoking isn't cool.
It's not cool at all.
And it can kill you. And you won't start smoking for yourself. Just do it for me. And me. And me. And me. And me.
And us.
All right, so that's just a sample one for stopping smoking. So as you can see, it's a social issue and an epidemic that people smoke, and they want to let you know the negative aspects of that. So you guys are going to be doing one on income inequality. So checkpoint 4, this is what it'll look like when you click into that. And what you're going to do is, if you look here, you're not going to know what to put in here. You have to click in to the resources on the right side of the screen. So when it says to use the research bank, this is the research bank that you're going to be using. These here are all relevant resources for you to use. So I suggest sticking to the things that are on this list. So if you're interested in searching about what is income inequality, how do you measure it, what are some statistics, there's different things that you can look into here, income inequality and how it impacts gender, race, homelessness, sex segregation, and then other forms of inequality that we see in the United States. There's also world data. There's different charts about wealth inequality in America. So, you know, I'm sure you've heard there's like 5 individuals in the world that are multi-billionaires that own like 99% of the world's money. So it's that kind of income inequality that they're discussing, and what you're going to be doing your project on this week. So what you're going to do, I'm going to click out of the research bank. So when it says look at the research bank, this is what it's looking at. And then you would be doing, based on your research, what are you going to make your PSA on? So I also suggest using the graphic organizer. So below the research bank, there's an income inequality graphic organizer. It'll look like this. I highly suggest you use it because it's going to help you organize your thoughts. So what you're going to do is you're going to learn what income inequality is, and then look how it specifically impacts gender or race or whatever you're interested in. You're going to look for a pattern or a factor that influences it, either from something you've observed in the data or a topic that you've heard about in current events. This can include age, region, ethnicity, immigration status, level of education. Then you're going to highlight the row that you're going to make your PSA about. So if you want to do it on just income inequality in general, that's fine. But if you want to be more specific and say, you know, women make so much less than men, and then you want to highlight that row, or if you're saying white people make so much more than people of color and wonder why, then you would do this one. And then you would have a public service announcement kind of showing those statistics of how unfair certain parts are, and then why the American public needs to know about it. So definitely use the graphic organizer to do this research. The cognitive skills that you're going to be scored on for this project are selecting relevant sources. So that is your ability to select sources that support your focus for the PSA from the research that you do. So if you stick to those sources that are in the research bank, you're not going to have a problem. The key word there is sources, meaning plural. You need to include information from more than one source. You never want to rely too heavily on one source because that doesn't make for a very strong argument. So make sure you have at least 2 of those sources from the research bank. If you choose to go your own route and do further research, that's where you can get a little bit, it can be a little more questionable as to whether it's a relevant source or not. Just make sure it's a credible source and it actually has to do with what you're trying to do a public service announcement about. Your second one is justifying and constructing an explanation. So this project's going to require you to look at graphs, charts, and tables and incorporate at least one of them into your final PSA. And then not only just show the graph or chart, but be able to explain what it is. So one sample that I have for you guys is the rise and fall of the compact disc. So if I would just put this in a project, it wouldn't really mean anything. I would have to say, CDs were introduced in 1985, it appears, and then they were on the rise, and they reached their peak in the year 2000, selling 943 million copies of CDs. But then, as you can see, in the early 2000s, things like Napster and things like that started to come, so people started to illegally download their music, therefore not buying CDs, and album sales dropped. And now they're at an all-time low due to the success of iTunes, Spotify, and other different things like Pandora and music streaming. So that was me actually explaining what this chart says and tying it back into what I'm really discussing. So you don't just want to put a chart or a graph or a map just to have it. You need to make sure you're properly explaining it. Your reflection for this week, I would like you to just let me know, what is a public service announcement?